What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over Week 14's wide receivers and tight ends to target. So as you can see, I have a lot of cash in tournament towards the top. Have yellow is stackable, orange is value, tournament. Smash is updated on Sundays. So let's get into it. Stephon Diggs tournament played 8,800. I think no wide receivers above 9K makes all wide receivers valuable then. Top 5 receiver. In the red zone as far as volume and what he does with it. Tough matchup for him, and his stats versus man, which Kansas City runs more man than zone, are a lot lower than what his kind of targets are. So kind of a tough matchup, but if the Bills are going to succeed, it's probably with Stephon Diggs. So I have him in tournament, definitely not in cash. Keenan Allen, I do have in cash though against Denver. I think Denver's secondary is very good, but the Chargers don't have anything else going for him besides Keenan Allen. So 20% of the red zone targets, top 5 receiver in the league versus zone, high total. It is, like I said, tough matchup. I think Denver's got one of the better secondaries in the league, but with the amount of volume he gets, it's just undeniable. Justin Jefferson, a tournament, just because he's coming back and there's no Kirk, so we don't know what it's going to look like. I still want to have exposure to him because he is as good. But 8,500, makes it a little bit valuable, just because he's usually 9K and above or a high 8,000. So great matchup for him and great versus zone. So some likes there. Amon-Ra, 8,200 tournament play against the Bears. 21.7 in the last game they played. 35.1% of the red zone targets go to him. Top 10 receiver versus zone, and a great matchup all around. If you wanted to play him in cash, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I wouldn't. I like it for cash, but I'd probably lean towards Mike Evans. I think that's kind of where I'm at. I like Keenan Allen in cash, but I think Mike Evans is kind of that top point that I want to get to. 22% of the red zone targets go to him. Best wide receiver in the league stat-wise versus man coverage, which Atlanta runs quite a bit. Great matchup as far as who he's going to face. He's on his touchdown streak in 20.2 in their last matchup, so... Amon-Ra is 21.7, Mike Evans 20.2, and you're getting a $500 discount, so that's kind of right where you're at with that. Jamar Chase, 7,600 tournament play. Jamar Chase at 7,600 just feels criminal, which is why I have him as a tournament. 33.3% of the red zone targets in a top 10 receiver versus zone coverage, which Indy runs a lot. Their secondary has stepped up. I think they're still a bad secondary, but definitely not as bad as they once were. So I like Jamar Chase, especially at his price point. Devontae Adams, 7,500 against Minnesota. 38% of the red zone targets, which is 18, top 5 in the league. Fourth most receptions to wide receivers Minnesota's given up. It's a good matchup, and he's got some really, really great numbers versus zone. So really like Devontae Adams. Michael Pittman, 7,300 against Cincy. Cash play. Right, 41.3% of the red zone targets go to him. Top 10 wide receiver versus man coverage. Good overall matchup. So at 7,300 yet again, Michael Pittman. Chris Olave, stackable. We'll have to watch the injury status of him. If Jameis is in the quarterback, I like that. Good numbers versus zone. 16 plus DK points in the last 4 games. Leads team in red zone targets, especially with Michael Thomas being out. He should see more and more red zone targets. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, both cash. Both their numbers versus zone are pretty similar. Deebo just slightly better as far as target rate and his actual stats. Deebo getting more red zone targets, but Ayuk has 4 red zone touchdowns. So I think either one is fine for cash. It's $100. Flip a coin and pick one, basically. DJ Moore stackable with Justin Fields. Justin Fields cheap, so kind of a cheap stack. I think it's about 13,000 for him. So good stack there. Second on the team in red zone targets, top 10 wide receiver versus man, and a great matchup of who he's actually going to line up against. Calvin Ridley, a tournament play at 6,400. Good numbers versus man, not anything special though. Kirk and possibly Trevor Lawrence out, so those are some negatives. But a 38% red zone target share. So Kirk being out, Ridley's going to see more volume. It might not be as good a volume, especially against Cleveland. But he's the wide receiver 1 there with Kirk out now. So he's going to get a lot of targets. If work happens with those targets, that's a different story, though. Adam Thielen, tournament play against New Orleans. Disappointing numbers in the last 6 weeks for Thielen. Hasn't gone above, I think, 16 fantasy points in that, and he's got 4 games under 10. It's a great matchup. Great numbers versus man. He's, I think, a top 15 receiver, top 10 receiver versus man coverage. 38% of the red zone targets go through Adam Thielen. So his price is going down quite a bit, and it should for what he's produced lately. So burnt me last week. Might take it this week. We'll see what it looks like. Cortland Sutton rising in price with a really good matchup against the Chargers. Top 10 in the league in red zone targets. He's got that touchdown upside. I think he's on a streak as well. If not, he's got like 4 in the last 5 or something like that. Great matchup versus the worst secondary in football. Just number-wise. I mean, you could say Philly too, so we'll put that up there. But I think Chargers secondary is just so bad. Good numbers versus zone, so 6,100 have him there. Zay Flowers might turn into a cash play. We'll see what it looks like. Lamar just came up on the questionable injury report, so we'll see what that entails. But 24% of the red zone targets go to him. It's an okay matchup, but his numbers against zone are really, really good against the Rams secondary, who is not good. So I like him there as well. Jacoby Myers, a tournament play. If you want to get a Vegas receiver against Minnesota, I'd lean Jacoby Myers in all honesty. He's got better numbers than Adams versus zone. Second on the team in red zone targets. He's got a 26% red zone target share and a good matchup for him at 5,700. So like that. Tyler Lockett, I have as my cash for Seattle. I think DK is playable too. All Seattle receivers apparently had a bad game. I could have swore one had a good one, but they didn't. He's a good run back if you want to stack a San Fran with Purdy and either Debo or Ayuk. He's a good run back. Even if not, if you want to get a cheap cash receiver, it's Tyler Lockett and Garrett Wilson there for me. 21% of the red zone targets. Higher target rate than DK for what they're going to see against San Fran. So like that one as well. Garrett Wilson, 5,500 against Houston. 40% of the red zone targets go to him. Great numbers versus zone. Tough matchup, but high volume per price. So he's seeing like 9+ targets every game pretty much. So it is a tough matchup, but at the 55 price for the volume he gets is very cheap, in my opinion. Rashee Rice, stackable. This is another one that could turn into cash, but we'll see what that one looks like. I think it's a tough matchup, though, overall. Top 10 in the league in red zone targets, though, so that's something that always stands out. Great numbers versus zone and man, but a tough matchup. Buffalo's secondary has improved. We'll see if that continues against Kansas City. And Kansas City's offense just is not what was once a really dominant offense. Josh Downs, 4,900 against Cincy. Good numbers versus man. 18 targets in the last 2 games. It's an okay matchup of who he's actually going to see. Second on the team in red zone targets, but it just doesn't seem like they're good targets if you go and watch them. Drake London, 4,600 is a cash play for me against Tampa Bay. I don't like putting Atlanta players in cash. I really don't. And this might come back to bite me in the butt, but we'll see. 28% of the red zone targets go to him. Great matchup of who he's going to line up against. Great target percentage versus man. I think it's like 30 above. 14.4 averaging at home. In third most yards to wide receivers, Tampa Bay's given up. So a lot to like there. The downside is it's an Atlanta offense, so you don't know how that offense is going to run. But Elijah Moore is a cash play for me at 4,500. Even if Cooper is in, it's still a cash play for me. It's only better if Cooper's out. But 22% of the red zone targets go to him. I think it's second on the team behind Njoku. 12 targets last week with Joe Flacco as a quarterback and really good stats versus zone at that price. Odell, a value at 3,800, 17% of the red zone targets. Highest target share percentage versus zone. Highest target percentage in routes run versus zone. Averaging 12.2 DK points at home as well. So, to like there. Jonathan Mingo, people are starting to have him in cash. I don't know if I'm going to get there. It is a tough matchup for him in general. Over 10 DK points. in the last 2 games and 29 targets in the last 4. So a lot to like. It seems like they're wanting to get Jonathan Mingo more included. And as of right now, that's it. It'll probably end up changing by Sunday once we hear some more injury news. Tight ends, Travis Kelce at 7,800. Tournament play, just hasn't produced what he once was. Still really good numbers out of him. Don't get me wrong, but not for the price that you're paying for Travis Kelce. You expect games above 30 points, or at least 25, and he's just not getting there. So he's got the best PFF tight end advantage. He usually always will. 13 red zone targets on the year. Only 2 games this season above 100 yards. So that's something else to watch. Laporta, 6,100 against Chicago, 24.3% of the red zone targets. Top 5 PFF tight end advantage. Only hit 6.8 in the last game, but Bears given 68 receptions to tight ends, so that's a positive there as well. George Kittle, 5,900 is a tournament play. Third best PFF tight end advantage. 22% of the red zone targets go to him. High total on this slate, which has a lot of low scoring totaled games, averaging 19.1 at home. So that's something else to consider. I really like George Kittle this week. Taysom Hill, if Derek Carr is out, I love Taysom Hill this week, but we'll see what that looks like. Isaiah likely as of right now. It will change, but as of right now is the only cash tight end that I have at 3,500 against the Rams. You can see the Rams giving up 14.4, 726 yards, 6 touchdowns to tight ends. Ended up with 6 targets last week. So as long as Lamar is good to go, I like Isaiah likely, especially for his price point. So really like that. Rams play running backs good, so makes it positive for Baltimore's passing game. Gerald Everett, 3,400 tournament play. You can say the same thing for Donald Parham, honestly. Denver, 74 receptions, 852 yards, 6 touchdowns to tight end. Top 5 PFF tight end advantage, 9 targets in the last 2 games, so not great. But you could play Parham or Everett in tournaments. One of them is going to have a really good game. Tyler Conklin at 3,000 is a value for me. Second on the team in red zone targets, and Houston giving up the most receptions to tight ends. We saw Ozama, who really hasn't gotten a lot of work on the IR. So it's Conklin. Ruckert, I think, is the other tight end, but Conklin's going to be leading in at 3,000. I think is a really good value. 2,800, Tanner Hudson continues to be a value for me. 4+ targets in the last 5 games. Doesn't have a lot of snaps, but the snaps he does see, he's getting a high target rate. So 67 receptions, 708 yards to tight ends. Indy's given up, and another top 10 PFF tight end advantage. And then last but not least, Adam Troutman, another value of 2,800 against the Chargers. You can see Chargers giving up 13.6. They're giving up 71 receptions, 730 yards to tight ends. Second on the team in red zone targets, so has that touchdown upside. And that is it, guys. I will update the sheets if you guys are interested in the sheets. Very cheap subscription package in our Discord. Link for that will be in the description. We'll update it definitely. There's a lot of injuries we're looking at right now, so we'll wait to see what that looks like before more guys start to get cash viable. So I will see you guys in the next one.